Janine and my daughter Jessica and I own Puppies and Posies Photography, where we specialize in newborn and children. And we also own Props by Posies, where we sell newborn patterns and newborn props as well. So we have an Etsy shop, and we also have a website, propsbyposies.com. So you can find us in those two places. You found us somewhere if you're here, and you have purchased the Elena pattern today, and that's what we're going to do, which is this little romper with the bell sleeves, and it has a little keyhole back and elastic legs, and that's what we're going to be working on today, making today. So here we go. This is what we're going to need. You're going to need some elastic, a quarter inch wide elastic, and I cut it about between 11 and 12 inches just because I like to have a little bit to work with. It doesn't need to be quite that long, but that's what I usually do. Also, you'll need some casing. We're going to be sewing some casing for the elastic to fit into. So I'm just using a ribbon that I had on hand. It's kind of an antiqued little thin ribbon, but you can use whatever ribbon as long as it's wide enough. It needs to be about that wide, about a ½ inch. Also, you're going to just need a tiny little piece of 1/8 inch wide elastic, along with a button and needle and thread to put on the keyhole, the back of the keyhole. And then you will need some, well, this is totally optional, but Wonder Tape, you're going to want it for sure, I guarantee it. If you don't have a serger, this is what you're going to want. When you're working with knits, it helps it stabilize it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when I start to use it. Also, we have this little threader, which is it's a Bodkin Threader, and it's very pliable, so you can put your elastic in and thread that through. That makes it very nice. If you're going to be making a lot of these little rompers, you will want to invest in that. The link will be in the instructions, as well as the link for the Wonder Tape as well. Scissors, I'm using my rotary cutter today, but you can use either one. Pins, you'll need some pins, and of course you'll need the pattern printed out and cut out. So this is what it's going to look like. A lot of my patterns you usually have to tape them together. This one you do not have to tape together. It comes piece by piece on this one. You don't have to tape anything together, which makes it kind of nice. So it'll print out on 5 pages, 4 pieces, and then this one just has the instructions and that. But that's what it will look like when it's printed out. Make sure you're printing at 100%, not scale to fit, and make sure you're printing the right file. So either the A4 or the US 8.5 by 11. So make sure you're printing out the correct one for what you need. So, and then go ahead and cut it out. So these are the pieces that we'll need to get started, and you will also need a shirt or something to upcycle. I like to use a lacy shirt, so I can use that for the top. And then I just happen to have some fabric that matches pretty well on hand, so I'm going to use that for the bottom. But you could also use another piece of clothing, because I usually always upcycle. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're starting with this, with the lace blouse. Now I'm going to use, this pattern is created specifically for this. Now if you don't have something that has an edge like this, that's fine. Go ahead and just cut it out, and then you will just want to add maybe 1/4 inch to the bottom of both that and this, so that you can do a seam and just sew them to the bottom. But we're going to sew this on top of the bottom part of the pattern, so because I'm using this ruffled edge. And this is my favorite thing to do. I love that because that makes it unique. It's hard to get that, when you're just sewing with fabric, but when you upcycle, you can use those cool parts and do that. So today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my rotary cutter. I've already cut this shirt on the sides so that I can flip back and use one piece at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just set that on there, so that, and then I want to make sure that I have enough room, and I do, so that's good. So I'm just going to set this right here, and normally what I would do is pin this on and then use my scissors and do it, but I have really enjoyed using my rotary cutters, so I'm going to go ahead and just pin it in place so it doesn't move on me too much, and then I'm going to go ahead and just cut that out. Now this is just the front, and we'll do the back separate because the back has a keyhole, and so If you don't have a rotary cutter, no worries. Go ahead and pin it on and then just cut it out with your scissors. No big deal. Okay. Okay. And it's really good to make sure that your blade is really nice and sharp. I like to change my blade out fairly often. Did I not? As you can see. Okay, so there we have the front. Let me just show you that. So that's what it's going to look like once it's on. Okay, super cute. Okay, so now we're going to do the keyhole part. And I have 2 of these here. Now, if you're just using fabric and you just want to fold it and then just cut one, you can do that as well. But where I'm doing this bottom again, I want to be able to, I'm going to do that. Just go really close. So I'm going to do the same thing, just about the same position. So we make sure we get that cute bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do 1 pin there to hold it somewhat down so that it doesn't move on me. And then I will use my rotary cutters. Okay. Cut off those tags. Those are going to be in my way. Okay, here we go. That's our dog. Sneezy. Okay. So another one. Okay. Now I'm going to do the. Now this is kind of where you have to decide what, how many outfits you want to get out of one shirt and whatnot. So I like the bell sleeve to have a decorative edge on it. So I'm going to do the, I'm going to go ahead and use this also for my bell sleeve. So if there's enough, I guess I better check that first, make sure there's enough. Ooh, and there is barely. So I'm going to use this for the edging, so when on the bottom of the sleeve it will have the little scallop on the bottom of the sleeve, and I think that's super cute. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And once again, I'll just pin it on and use my rotary cutter. And once again, if you're just using fabric, you can certainly cut two out at a time. So I'm going to do one because I'm using the scallop. And then do it again. Okay, same thing. Okay, those are done. We will get this out of the way and then we'll go ahead and cut out the pants here. So I'm just grabbing my fabric, and it's doubled this way, and then I'm just gonna fold it over this way so I can cut 2 out at one time, okay? So make sure that all the wrinkles, folds are right, not causing a problem, like this one seems to be. Just make sure it's smooth, okay? And then you're just gonna set that right there. And I'm gonna put, you're doing it on the fold. So it says on the pattern, cut on fold. So, and then it has it here, cut on fold. So this is the part that's going up against the folded edge. And I'm cutting, once again, I'm cutting 2 out at a time because I have it folded this way as well, okay? So you can do them one at a time if you'd like. I just like to do as much together as I can. So here we have the pants. So you will have two of these, 1, 2, and then you'll have the front, sticks to the sleeves, and then the back. That's the back with a keyhole. All right, so what I'm gonna do very first is I'm going to go ahead and the very first thing I'm gonna do is hem the keyhole and hem the neckline. So before I even go to the sewing machine, I'm just going to take, take this and, what did I just say? The neckline. What am I doing? Okay, the neckline. I'm gonna take this in the neckline, the keyhole, and I'm gonna just place that tape that I talked about, this Wonder tape. Now what this does is it keeps it in place so that it doesn't stretch on you, and it doesn't, and it gives you something, especially with lace, it kind of gives it some substance to sew with. This dissolves once it has water on it. So once you wash it or get it wet, it dissolves, so it's not on there any longer, but it helps so much with the sewing. And what I love about it, so I'm just gonna take it and place it, it's double-sided, has paper on one side, and then you peel the paper off and it's got stickiness on both sides. So what it does is it takes the place of pins as well, which is just awesome. So it's a 1/4 inch wide, which is most of my seam allowances, which is awesome too, because then it's kind of your guide for when you're hemming. So what I'm gonna do, I peeled off the tape. Now I'm just gonna fold it right where the tape ends. I'm gonna fold it over, and that's gonna be my hem line. Just gonna fold it, just following the tape line. Okay, so there's that. That's what it will look like once it's sewn. I'm gonna go ahead and do that to this, and I'm also gonna do it to the neckline, so I'll jump to the neckline so you can watch me do that. And then, now sometimes with this big of a curve, you may want to split it in half, you know, do half and half, but this tape tends to curve pretty easily, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it in one piece here. And then you just fold it over that 1/4 inch. Peel the tape off. If you rip it, it makes it easier to find the end because it usually makes a jaggedy edge that you can grab onto. So then I'm just gonna fold it over again, just a 1/4 inch, which is just where the tape is. Just folding it over. And then I will take it to the sewing machine and I will zigzag around for my hem. Okay, so there you go. I'm gonna go ahead and finish this other piece, and then I'll meet you at the sewing machine. Okay, so we are down at the sewing machine. I'm gonna go ahead and hem that keyhole. I already did the other side, so I'm just gonna show you this side. And then I zigzag, so it gives a little bit more for stretch. And And sometimes you'll need to kind of tug on the strings, you know, to the thread and back if you need help getting it going. If you have a walking foot, you probably won't need to do that because it will just pull it right through for you. But if you don't, then you may need to pull those threads a little bit. And I just zigzag right along that 1/4 inch hem. And good. Okay, so there it is. And then also at the top you'll have a little bit of extra because of the angle of it. So just cut that off. The tip. Okay. So we have the 2 keyholes done. Now what I'm going to do also on this is I'm going to also, while we're here, might as well just sew them together. So right sides together, and there's the keyhole. So I'm going to just put right sides together, and I'm going to sew them together right here at the bottom. You'll place a little bit of tape there. This will be a little bit easier just because it's a thicker with the banding. It's got more to hang on to, but just for fun, I will go ahead and add that tape. And then I'm just going to go ahead and actually I will zigzag right down there. So just right the bottom there. And back stitch, and then forward again. Okay. Grab my strings, there we go. And then back stitch at the end as well. And then that will be our back piece now sewn together just right at the end so that you're leaving the keyhole open. So that's what it will look like. And then we'll sew it onto the back in a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and hem the neckline that I taped down. So I taped it down just that 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead and just zigzag all the way around that. Okay, we have that hemmed. And that's what it looks like. Okay. All right, so then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sew them right onto the right side of the fabric. So this is my right side of the fabric. It doesn't matter which one because they're both the same. And what I do is I grab my tape. If you don't have tape and you're going to pin it, then just pin it. But I just do it right on the very edge along the bottom, or along the top edge of the bottom piece. How about that? Okay, of the pants. So, and just press it down, make sure it's down really well, and then take the tape off. And then we're just going to place this right on top. And just enough so that the scallop basically is what's left. You know, I'll turn that over so you can see on this side. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and just zigzag it right on. I think I'm going to do it from the back. Just because I can see what I'm doing on that. The other one I made before this, I just did it right on top, but I just want to, for fun, I just want to be able to see what I'm sewing. Okay, so I'm going to zigzag once again, and I'm going to put the edge of my fabric along this inside edge of this foot. Is how I like to do it. Okay, and I'm going to zigzag. And back stitch. That's what it looks like on the across the top. Okay, so now let's take the back and do the same exact thing. We're just going to go ahead and tape along that top edge. Once again. You can always see how straight you cut when you put the tape on, because the edge that you didn't will poke up over the, the edge. So make sure the tape once again is pushed down hard, and make sure you're on the right side of the fabric. And then we're going to once again just place this right over the edge, just so that the scallop, this is kind of how I'm doing it, this where the scallop goes up, I'm just placing that at the end of the tape, the bottom edge of that tape. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to turn it over, make sure it looks good. And it does. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the same thing I did before and zigzag all the way across. Make sure that seam, that when you go over that seam, that it's laying down pretty good. Just going to straighten that out just a smidge because it looked like it was kind of off a little bit. It still kind of does, but I'm going to go right over it. And then back stitch. Okay, now we have the bodice pretty much just put together there. So there's the keyhole for the back, and then there's the front. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the shoulders together, the top of the shoulders, and then we will go ahead and do the sleeves. So what we're going to do is start with taping that. We're going to do right sides together. So we're going to start by taping the right side of the front, because it has the smaller, see how these don't match up because the keyhole goes farther. So we're going to put the tape on the smaller shoulders right at the very top. Place that tape, and there as well. Now once again, if you don't have the tape, you can just pin them together. Pin the front to the back, right sides together. Okay, so here's our back side. I've taped the right side of the fabric on the front, and I'm going to just line it up. And I'm lining it up to the outside because that's where the arms are going to match up. So I'm just right at the top edge. This is the kind of lace that just grabs every dry piece of skin you have, or hangnail, or... And do the same over here, just right on the outside edge. And then as you see, we're going to have extra right here. And I'll show you what we do with that. Okay, so we are going to zigzag across that. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to straight stitch, not zigzag. I'm going to straight stitch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to sew those together, but instead of stopping where this stops, I'm going to keep going. That just gives you a place to fold over. You'll understand once we do it. So let me just show you. So we're going to straight stitch, 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to go. And actually, when I get to this part, to the end, I am going to back stitch right there, but then I'm going to go forward. I'm going to back stitch just to give it a little bit more anchoring so it doesn't rip or tear or whatever. And then just keep going all the way to the end. And then you can backstitch again if you want. Doesn't really matter because we're gonna fold it over, but. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, cut these off, is we're gonna open it up and let's go this way so you can see better. We're gonna open it up and we're gonna fold this seam that we just sewed, we're gonna fold that over, and then we're also gonna fold this over and sew it. So I'm gonna tape mine just because that will help hold it in place. It'll probably be enough for it to hold on to, and then that will give you a hemmed edge on this extra part that's hanging over, and so it doesn't have to be raw. Okay, so we're gonna press that down real good, take off that tape, and then fold it over. So we're gonna fold it over, and then we're gonna come back in and we're gonna reinforce it. We're gonna sew on top of that. Okay, so there you go, look at that. So when we're done sewing across there, it's gonna look like that, all nice and finished. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna straight stitch, and I'm just gonna go right along the edge. So I'm gonna have my this edge that I'm sewing, I'm gonna have it right on the inside part of that foot. Okay, and you're gonna want to back stitch here. Grab my threads here. Okay, so I'm gonna want to back stitch. So I'm gonna go forward a little bit, and then back stitch, and then forward again. And I'm just gonna go all the way across. And then back stitch again. Okay, so this, I'm gonna cut that little extra off. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the very same thing to this other side. And then I will come back. Okay, so we have that done. This is what it looks like. And then, so see those edges are nice and finished. And now we're gonna go ahead and do the sleeve. So I'm gonna open this up and I'm gonna do the right side facing up. So this is my right side, it has the scallops, so I know that I'm right side up. I'm gonna grab my sleeve and we're gonna put right sides together like this, okay? So first off, I'm going to go ahead and put my tape on my sleeve. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do it, that's what I did last time when I did my own, but I'm gonna do it this way because it's a little bit straighter and it's not so curved, so it's gonna be easier. So go ahead and just put tape right along that edge of the armhole. Tear it off. Make sure it's pressed down really good. And then take the paper off. And then what we're gonna do is kind of find the middle. I usually eyeball it, but if you want to, just kind of fold the sleeve in half like this. And just, you can stick a pin there or whatever to mark that that's your halfway mark, okay? I'm just gonna kind of keep my thumb on it. So that's what's gonna, I'm gonna take the middle of this and line it up with this seam right here. Okay, so I'm just gonna place it right there, right on top. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come on over to the end and I'm going to put the ends together so that I know those meet. And then in the middle, I just kind of push it down into place. This tape is so awesome for this purpose. Same thing, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna just put the ends together, make sure that those match up again. And then, remember, we're doing a circular curved arm onto a straighter piece, but it just, with the tape, it makes it so much easier. And if you need to, you can just pull a tiny bit because that tape does stretch a little bit, and then just place it right into place. Okay, so I have that all pressed down into place. Now all I'm gonna do is zigzag right around that edge. So easy peasy. If you were afraid of sleeves, no need anymore. So I'm going to place that. I am gonna zigzag, so turn it back to zigzag if you straight stitched over your shoulders. Make sure that's good and pressed down. Now the only concern is that you just keep everything nice and smooth, okay, at this point, because we're doing a circle. Make sure you have the bottom of the sleeve pulled out and all that. Okay, and then we're gonna back stitch and then go forward. And we're just gonna keep it right along the edge 1/4 inch all the way around, making sure it's nice and smooth and I'm not catching anything. Going over the seam right there, that's why it looks kind of bulkier. And we're just going to get that curve. And then back stitch when you get to the end. Cut your strings off and then we'll turn it the other way and see what we've got. So voila, there you go. There's the sleeve. Okay, isn't that cute? So then we're gonna go ahead and do the other side. And then what we're going to do is just sew up the whole side all at once, the arm and the sides. Okay, there are other ways to do it, but this is the way that I find is the easiest for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this other side, and then I will be right back. Okay, so here we are with both sleeves on. And now we are going to go ahead and sew up the sides. Okay, so to do that, you're going to turn it right sides together, so inside out again. And we're going to place some tape all along one side. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to place tape right there, right on the very edge. And I'm going to go all the way up to the armpit, and I'm just going to tear it off right there. You could, if you want to make that turn, you can, but I'm just going to make it easy on myself. And go right along that arm edge as well. Press it down as hard as you can. Make sure it's nice and pressed down. Peel off the top layer, and then we will match up the edges and of the top. Okay. Now we're going to grab this top part. We're going to match up the corner, the end right here. Match that up. And then come up to the top here and match this corner seam with this corner seam. So just make sure that's lined up pretty well. And then everything in between. That's how I always do things, is I do the ends and then I do everything in between, because you can always make the in between fit, but it's hard to make the edges match up if they don't match up. Okay, so as you can see, this looks like I have maybe a smidge more fabric there. I'm just going to pull that tape just a little bit until that will lay down flat. Okay, and then I'm going to do the sleeve here. Just match up those edges, match up that edge, and then everything in between. Press it down nice and tight. I'm going to cut off this extra tape that I have hanging at the bottom. And now I'm just going to zigzag that all the way up, starting at the arm here. And I'm going to zigzag a quarter of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to back stitch and then sew all the way along that edge. And I'm just trying to keep my fabric pretty close to that edge right there. Sometimes it'll get away from you, but... And then what you're going to want to do is make sure, as you're coming to the corner, make sure that your seams, see this shoulder seam, where I attach the sleeve, is laying towards there. Make sure this back side is also lying towards, so that you don't have to have a twist, and mine's not, so I've got to make sure it is. So I'm going to go under here. I'm actually going to put my needle in the down position, and I'm going to lift up my foot so that I can make sure, and it is now. Okay, so there you go, and then straighten that back out. Okay, so I'm coming up to that edge. And then I'm just going to turn my fabric, making sure that I'm not getting anything caught where it's not supposed to be. And I'm going to continue all the way down the body. See that I have some tape stuck right there. Get that off. And I'm going to back stitch when I get to the end. And there we have one whole side done, and I'm going to go ahead and do that right to the other side. Same thing, I'm going to tape all along this edge and then match these up and sew. And I will be right back. Okay, so we're back. I've sewn up the sides. I'm just going to cut off some extra little fluff that I had there. Now what I like to do on the sleeves, on a lot of my seams, where like on the crotch seam, I'll do the same thing, is I like to kind of cut off that edge. See how it kind of sticks out, and it's just, even when it's turned this way, it's just going to be kind of bulky and stick out. So I like to just kind of cut it at an angle so that it's not as bulky. I already did it to this one, so the same thing, and I will do the same thing. You know, this one is the same way. You can just kind of right at an angle, cut those, and then I'll do the crotch as well once I get that sewn. Okay, so we have the sides all sewn up, and I'm just going to show you, and then we will go ahead and hem the legs and start that process. We're going to do elastic legs, but we're going to do a casing this time. In my other patterns, I haven't used a casing, but on this one, I decided to use it, and I love it, so I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so here we are. It's coming together. So there's the front, there's the back. Super cute. There's the sleeves. I love this bell sleeve. Now what we're going to do is hem the legs. So I'm going to turn it back inside out, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. Okay, so we'll do that. Have it back inside out. And then what I'm going to do is open it up this way, so I have it kind of on the side. So now this is just one big leg hole right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and tape it right on the edge, and then we're going to hem it up just that 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to grab my tape again and try and make sure that you're not stretching the fabric. Just make sure it's just, you know, you're not pulling it when you're doing it. This fabric is really stretchy, so I could really get it all, you know, stretched out of shape. So make sure you're not stretching it at all. Okay, and I'm just going right along the edge, all the way across. Press it down really well. And then you're going to rip off the tape and just fold it up that 1/4 of an inch, just using that tape as your guide. So it's hard with, I think, white on white on white. I hope you can see it pretty good. But so I'm just going to fold right up, just right, using that tape as my guide, and it's perfect. So it does this perfect hem that you know is going to be uniform all the way around, which is so nice. And it's going to stay in place for you because it's taped. And then once again, I think I said this in the beginning, once you get this tape wet, so once you wash the outfit, or if you just want to get it wet to get rid of it, the tape, you can do that as well, and it will dissolve. Okay, so there's my leg hole that's somewhat hemmed up. Now I just have to sew it. I'm going to zigzag it, and then do the same to the other side. And I like to go just right down the middle with my zigzag here. And just make sure you're not catching anything else underneath it, okay? So that will be frustrating for you. Okay, back stitch. And then we're gonna just zigzag all the way around. Push it along on that seam. It doesn't want it to go over it. And then back stitch at the end. Okay, so there it is, hemmed up. And then see, this is going to form the leg right here. It's kind of hard to see, but there you go. That's going to form the leg. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that very same thing to this side. I'm going to open it up, lay it flat, tape it, fold it up, and sew it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I hemmed this other side, and now we're going to do the casing. I went ahead and did one so you can see what it looks like, so you can see what we're doing. So this is what we've done, and then this elastic is going to slip right through here. We're going to feed it right through there, and that's what's going to gather. So let me show you how I did it. You're going to just love it. If you've not done casing before, you will really like it a lot. So I'm going to take my tape just because it helps keep the ribbon in place. You don't have to use the tape. I mean, if you want to just hold it and do it, sometimes it just kind of gets away from me, so I like to go ahead and use the tape. So I'm just going just about 1/8 of an inch above my hem line is where I'm placing the tape. Just right above it. I mean, not right at the edge, just a little above. And then I'm going to go ahead and place the edge of the ribbon right along the edge of the tape. So let me show you that. So I'm going to just make sure it's nice and down nice and tight. Peel off the tape, and then I'm going to take my ribbon, and like I said, you can use any ribbon. You can use fabric, a strip of fabric if you want to, whatever you want to make the casing. Okay, they also make pre-made casings that you can just buy and so on. I just like mine single. The casing that they usually sell will have, that I'm familiar with, will be folded. It'll be folded 2 ways, and it just kind of makes it bulkier. So I just like a nice piece of thin ribbon is fine. Okay, and then I'm just placing that. Sorry, I forgot to, talking too much. I'm just placing this the edge of this ribbon right here, this edge, along the edge of the tape that I just placed, the bottom edge of that tape. Okay, so there we go. And like I said, I cut these a little bit longer than needed to be, but okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to straight stitch right along that edge, both edges. So we're making the casing. So if you remember on this other one, I've sewed a straight stitch on both the top and the bottom, okay, to make that casing. So I'm going to go ahead and place my foot down so that the edge of the ribbon is right along the inside edge of this, and I'm going to move my needle. I can move my needle over a little bit because I like it right on the edge. So if you can do that, you can do that too. If not, it should work out just fine. You just want to make sure that you leave a space that is as wide as your elastic. Mine is a 1/4 of an inch wide, so you want to make sure that you leave it at least the tunnel that wide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just straight stitch that all the way along the edge there. And then I'm going to come back and do the top edge. Back stitch. Okay. Our dog Oakley likes to be down here with us, and we have laminate flooring down here in our studio, and it's kind of noisy, so sorry about that. Okay, now we're going to go and do the same thing on the top edge. So we're just going to place the foot so that the top edge of this ribbon is on the inside part of the foot, right up there. I'm going to move my needle over again. And I'm going to straight stitch again, back stitch, forward, and back stitch when we get to the end. Okay, and cut this off. You can cut the excess off of the ribbon. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take your elastic and your Bodkin Threader. If you don't have a Bodkin Threader, just use a safety pin. A large safety pin, you can just hook it to the end of this and feed it through that way. But I have this Bodkin Threader and I love it, and it makes it so nice, so much nicer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go inside the... Now, because there's tape there, it might be a little bit more sticky, but it should go through. So I'm going to just feed it through like this. I'm gonna help it right at the end so that I don't end up stretching or pulling stitches out or anything. Just kind of help it get over that lump there. And then pull it all the way through, making sure that it doesn't twist on on its way through. So make sure it's nice and flat. Now I just pulled this through. It's right here. I pulled it just a little bit too much. Make sure you don't do that, but mine's right there. So what I'm gonna do is right now I'm going to take it and I'm going to just make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. I'm gonna stitch it right over the top. Mine is right here. I pulled it just a little bit farther than I wanted to, but I'm gonna go with it because it's okay. And I'm just going to stitch a straight stitch over there. I'm going to forward, backwards, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, and then that will get caught in our seam. I will make sure that it does. Okay, so then now, without worrying about it being pulled through, you can then cinch it up to whatever you want. So I have a little measuring thing right here. What I like to do is I like to get it to about 5 inches when it's all said and done. So as I said, you don't need this long of a thing, but I just like it to be able to work with it, and then I cut off the excess. So if you want to be a little bit more conservative, you don't have to cut off such a big piece. Okay, so here's my little inches here, and there's my 5. So once I have it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side, is secure it into place so that it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm just going to, once again, I'm going to straight stitch right over the top, back and forth, make sure it's not going anywhere. And then we're gonna grab it again when we do this, when we sew up the crotch. So okay, just cut off the excess elastic there, and now we have this cute little leg that it'll be like that. We have a cute little ruffle here going on. So let's do the other side, and then we will do the crotch and put it together. Okay, same thing. We're just gonna feed it through, making sure that it doesn't twist through, making sure you don't pull it all the way through like I almost did last time. So pull it through, being careful, and as you get towards the end, right there, I'm gonna secure it. So there's my elastic sticking out. Right there, I'm just gonna stitch right over it, right on the edge. Back and forth. Okay, then I'm gonna pull it through some more. And again, I'm gonna cinch it up. Make sure that it doesn't twist on you. Mine's flat, so I'm gonna cinch it up until I get to the 5 inches again. Kind of measure it there. So okay, so I'm right about there. Okay, so I'm going to take it and secure it again on the edge. Cut off the excess. Okay, now we're ready to sew the crotch up, and we will be done except for the button and the little loopy. Okay, so let's do the crotch. So you have these 2 flat sides left, which is the crotch. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of tape along that edge. Try not to stretch it, of course. And I like how these edges, all the gathering is up inside, and you'll kind of want to do the same thing for this if you can. Just kind of smooth it out at that edge. And then once it's sewn together, you can kind of get it to where you want it to be. But if you can smooth it out, that's better. Okay, and then you take the edge. Once again, you match up got to take off the tape, the paper tape, and then match up the edges. edge to edge. And then this edge. And then everything in between. Once again, if you can tell, let me fix this a little bit. This looks like it's got a little bit more pull to it, so I just pull it gently because this tape has a little bit of give to it until it lays flat. And it's laying flat. This is just my ribbon here. So, okay, I'm going to do another 1/4 inch seam, and I'm going to zigzag just because I like to have the give if needed. It'll be able to stretch a little bit better. I'm going to zigzag. And let me see what's happening. Okay, sorry, okay. 1/4 inch seam allowance. And make sure that you backstitch the start and the beginning of the crotch. Make sure you're not getting anything else in there that you don't want. And when you get to the end, you're going to backstitch again. And you're done. Cut off that excess tape and the strings. And then, as I said before, I'm going to cut that crotch, that edge of the crotch just at an angle, just a little bit to give it less bulk. And I'm tempted to do the same, just kind of trim it up a little bit there so it's not so much there. Same on this side. I'm going to just cut a little bit of that off. Okay. And there we go. Make sure you caught everything. And we can turn it the other way and fix our legs how we want the little elastic gathering to be. So let's turn it right side out. And get the legs out. And super cute. Okay, so there's our legs. And then we can just kind of move that elastic however we want that ruffle to look. And that will stretch, oopsie, that will stretch about 8 inches, which is perfect. That will be plenty big for a newborn baby. So there you go. There we're done. So what we're gonna do, well, we're done except for the button and the little hook. So what I'm gonna do on this one, you can really do whatever you want. I mean, you can do, you can use for your loop, you can use thread, you can do a loop with thread, you can do it with yarn, ribbon, whatever you want to do. I'm going to use a little bit of elastic, and I think I've lost it somewhere. Let me see if I, oh, here it is. I have my button and my little tiny elastic. I have an 1/8 inch wide elastic. That's what it looks like. And I'm just going to twist it like that. So basically just crisscross it. Let's see. I want to, it's so little, it's going to be a little bit hard to work with, but I'm going to kind of cross it like that. Okay, can you see that? And then I'm going to sew it to the inside right here, so that, and then it will go over my button, and it will stretch because it's elastic, so it'll stretch as much as you need it to. So I'm going to hold that really well and see if I can get that sewn on here, and then we can cut off the excess. But I like to have some to work with. So I'm just going to push that up inside there, put my foot down for once, and then I'm going to zigzag right over it a couple times. And I'm going to go back, and it's having a hard time here. Let's try again. I've got to help it through, it looks like, so let me, hang on. My tension so it's not quite so tight. Pull that over a little bit. Okay, back down. Doesn't want to go. Okay, let's see how that does. Okay. Okay, that kind of bunched, my thread kind of bunched in the end, but I'll just show you what it looks like so that you can see. So that's what it's like, and then we will cut this off. And then this will stretch right over that, this button. And I'm gonna, it looks like it kind of bunched up when I was doing it, so I'm gonna kind of thin that out a little bit because it's gonna bother me. But okay, so then I'm gonna, with the needle and thread, I'm gonna go ahead and just sew this little button right on the edge, just like that. And then we'll be done. I'll come back and show you the finished product when we're done. Okay, we're back. It's done. Isn't it the cutest thing? I love it. So I went ahead and did a little pearl button on the back, and it's got the elastic little loop, but you don't even see that because the button is what's covering it. And we've got the cute elastic legs. I just love it. It's so great. So if you are not a part of our VIP pattern Facebook group, please go and look for us. It's, the link should be on your links page in your instructions. Make sure that you go and join that Facebook group because it's a great support group. We want you to be there. Then you'll see when new patterns are coming out and all those fun things. So please be a part of that. Go join if you're not a part of it. If you are a part of it, continue to support and comment and post. We'd love to see everything that is out there. Also, make sure you check out our inspiration page on our website. It's propsbyposies.com, and then you go to inspiration, and it's got a great bunch of pictures that our Facebook group people have made from our patterns, and they're awesome. There's a whole bunch. There's over 100, I think, of them, and it just gives you ideas. It helps you to get ideas of what you want to make and what fabrics to use them, what changes and tweaks you can make to them to make them look different. So be sure to go check that out as well. So thank you for joining us for the Elena, and we will see you next time for the next pattern.